Today I'm going to talk about a band from the 90s that I used to listen to, but then I had completely forgotten that they existed. I think there have been a few bands of those ever since I started to review music on my channel. Talking about the band 311 and their 14th full studio album, Full Bloom. I was surprised to hear that they had released 14 albums, and even more surprised that the album that I used to listen to was actually not their debut album. So let me give you a little bit of a personal history with this band. I discovered them with their self-titled album from 1995. And I thought this was their debut album, but it's actually their third album. And I think this is the album that most people know because this one was big, it had hits, it had Down, it had All Mixed Up, and that was back in 1995. I had this album on cassette. I really wore it down because I remember playing it all the time. And after that, I only remember a few other songs from this band. I remember the song Amber, and that one came out a few years later in 2001. And I remember they had a song that was pretty big on the 51st Dates soundtrack, which was a cover of The Cure's love song. However far away, I will always love you. But after that, I didn't really pay much attention about them. So now that I have a music review channel, I'm revisiting this band after many years. So this band has been active since the beginning, and this is the biggest gap between albums. Their last one came out in 2019. The band sounds the same as I remember, although maybe a little softer than before. I'll talk about that later, but it's basically a cross between nu metal, alternative rock, and reggae. They didn't really change the sound much over the years. If I'm wrong, let me know, because I haven't really listened to them that much. This album is pretty short. There's only 10 tracks. The album's 32 minutes long, and the songs are 2 to 3 minutes each. The opening track is You're Gonna Get It. My first impression is that it sounds like a pop song, but the vocals are the same as I remember. You have those reggae-style vocals. I also noticed that the song starts to build up, and it brought in those heavy guitar riffs that I remember from the band. I thought this track had a cool groove to it, and then the second part of the song was a rap section. I listened to the song a few times already. I thought it was a pretty catchy song. The next song is called Need Somebody, and this song starts off right away with the funky guitars. Kind of reminded me of some classic Red Hot Chili Peppers mixed with that classic rap and reggae. I felt the song was more guitar-oriented. I guess they were going for a harder rock song, but at the same time, they kept their signature sound. They also had the rap section in the second verse, so it was brief. This reminded me more of their older stuff. So you're going to see as I go through this review that some of the stuff is more like adult contemporary, more mellow, and other stuff is more like throwback to their earlier sound. The third track is the title track called Full Bloom. This one reminded me a lot of the song Amber. It had more of that reggae rock sound. It was the kind of song that evokes images of sitting on the beach and just relaxing. It's one that sounds similar to what I remember, and had some heavier guitar riffs in the chorus and those Caribbean tropical sounds in the verse section. It was a cool song. I felt it was very representative of their sound. The next one was called Friend, and this made me think of two things. It reminded me of the alternative rock band Weezer with that simple guitar playing, and the lyrics made me think of the term divorced dad rock. It has the type of sound that divorced dads could like, because it's a way for them to channel their feelings, because we all know nobody gives a flying fuck about how men feel. But listen to some of these lyrics. I need a friend who's warm when it's cold, someone to depend on, whose troubles unfold. A kind of friend who will always be there, rely on to fly on a wing and a prayer. So, very cheesy lyrics, but in all seriousness, I actually like the song. It's a simple rock song, but it was catchy and the lyrics stuck with you. Next is Mountaintop. This is another one of those funky, upbeat songs. This one had more of that happy and danceable reggae sound mixed with some of their hard rock. This one had a cool thick guitar bass and had some softer Caribbean rock sounds. I thought the main guitar riff of the song was pretty cool. After this is the song New Heights. This one had that modern electronic sound, some of those spacey and trippy effects, and more of a reggae sound. I thought it was one of the more pop and commercial sounding songs. It sounded very processed. There were not really any heavy guitars. I heard some guitars, but they were more in the background. The vocals are a mix of those rap and reggae style vocals. The next song is called Days Go By. This one has some guitars in it, but also has some softer sounds as well. One of the slower tracks with that trippy reggae sound. If you've listened to this band, you know what I mean. Where they try to get a little psychedelic sounding, but at the same time, they don't stray from their reggae sound. After this is the song Persimmon, and this one had a very spacey and ambient sound. It was just one of those softer tracks that had more of the electronic sounds and less of that heavy guitar sound. This is one of those songs that has the emotional lyrics, such as, whatever you do, just know I'm always with you. Wherever you go, you're not alone. So the lyrics are emotional, they're heartfelt, they're cheesy. Here's another gif of some cheese, and they bring some guitars in the second half of the song. And they use more of that clean guitar tone as opposed to the distorted guitars that they've been using on previous songs. The song also has the bass guitar up front in the mix, and it's good to hear some of those bass notes in the song. The penultimate song is called All You've Seen. This is a very reggae sounding song. Another one of those songs that just makes you feel like relaxing on the beach. The lyrics were very well written. They're about reminiscing on the past. Another one of those mellow songs that has mostly guitars in a clean tone. There's one line in the song that stood out, and they said, "Don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys." And I know I've heard that somewhere before. So if you know, let me know in the comments where I've heard that, because I've heard it somewhere. The last song is called Braver. This one is one of the heavier rap rock songs that has a sound similar to what I remember when I used to listen to them back in the 90s. The song had that classic sound, mixing nu metal, alternative rock, rap rock, and the reggae sound was more in the background. It had some thick sort of bass, a few rap sections. Overall, one of the heavier tracks in the album, probably more reminiscent from the album, the self-titled album that I knew from the 90s. Now for my final thoughts. I'm not really sure how I felt about this after my first listen. At first, I thought, okay, it's okay. But then I noticed the songs stay with you after a few listens. I also had to go back and listen to a few of their older tracks so I can make a fair comparison. So I put on the self-titled album just for a few songs. And the thing I noticed was that the self-titled album from 1995 was like much heavier. I listened to the song Down, and that's a pretty heavy song. It had that like rap, but it was more like a Limp Bizkit heavy rap type of song with the heavy guitars and just an overall just like more of a metal sound. But this album was more laid back. It's not necessarily a bad thing. They're much older now, and bands have the right to let their sound evolve. I've been seeing a lot of other 90s bands do this, such as Collective Soul, Soul Asylum. Both of those bands had albums released this year. So I basically said the same thing with those bands. So they're much older, so they're going to kind of mellow it down. I thought the album was pretty good. It's the type of album I can listen to and chill out. My score is an 8 out of 10. Not as heavy as I remember, but the music was still pretty good. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this, and have you been following this band since the beginning? How does it compare to their other albums? In the meantime, check out my review of another 90s band that I was just talking about. So my review of the latest album by Soul Asylum called Slowly But Surely. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. Check out the video description for my socials. I have merch, I have a store, and you can find all that in the video description. And I will see you in the next one.